Let's talk to Richard Fitzwilliams, who's with me here. Richard, that's pretty devastating. It's the first headline we've seen from tomorrow's papers. Andrew in orgy on Epstein Island. Really between the lines from Daphne Barak there, it sounds as though Andrew still is very much in the doo-doo.
In the spotlight for the worst reasons.
Yeah.
And of course, this is desperately embarrassing for the royal family. Of course, he denies any wrongdoing, but the facts simply are that in the court of public opinion, that photograph in 2001, which of course you've been mentioning,
Yes.
that hasn't been explained. The facts are that there's a cornucopia of horrors that over the years, from the time when he was special representative for trade.
Yes.
He lost that, of course, because of Epstein, but there are a lot of unwise friendships before that. Now we've got a series of, well, I mean, he's lost his military links, he's lost his patronages, 230 of them, he doesn't use his HRH. He's in a complete limbo. Now, the problem of someone in a limbo also when they have a sense of entitlement, which he has, which I have to say I think is positively poisonous. You saw that on that news.
It's not helping him, is it?
It's terrifying, but where does he go from here? I would have thought a job running the royal estates, perhaps, or helping to, and something that involved, firstly, cooperating with the FBI if you want any possibility.
In some way. Well, I think this is what Daphne was suggesting, that he needs to reverse what he said at that BBC interview. He needs to also acknowledge that he knew this woman.
Well, but also, I mean, that photograph's got to be explained, but also if you want to get back into public life in any sense at all, with any official duties, John Profumo is the person that comes to mind, and he did years and years of quiet community work and then became respected again. And that is the only...
I don't think he could possibly do that. But Daphne, before I come back to you, let me just bring in Kinsey Scoffield from California. She's in Hollywood, of course. Kinsey, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for waiting for us. Some people thought that with the advent of all of these other names coming out, the heat might move off Prince Andrew a little bit. You know, when you've got people like, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio, when you've got Bill Clinton being named, when you've got a whole series of various actors and actresses, Naomi Campbell's in there as well. Michael Jackson gets a name check, Kevin Spacey. I mean, how is American sort of celebrity world reacting to all of this?
I think you're right. I think Prince Andrew is the lowest on the list here in the States. We are looking at former President Bill Clinton and even curious about names like Microsoft's, I'm sorry, I'm spacing on his name right now. It's been a long night, as you Bill Gates, thank you, sir. So I think Elon Musk was one of the names that were alleged to have been on the list. So Americans are definitely combing it for some of those more familiar names. We're looking right now at the magician David Copperfield, who allegedly had a conversation about this pyramid scheme. Talking about, did this young woman know that other young women recruited women underneath them and that they were financially compensated for it? So it makes you wonder how much everyone knew that did hover around Epstein. So I do believe that Prince Andrew is lowest on the totem pole when it comes to American media and this explosive story here in the States.
Indeed. And Daphne, let me just come back to you for a second. I mean, you know a lot of the people involved in this story. You know a lot of the players. You understand that you knew Epstein, you know Ghislaine Maxwell. You know, what was in it for these people if they were not involved in, nefarious activity? I mean, if you're Bill Clinton or you're Hillary or you're even David Copperfield, what is the point of being friends with Jeffrey Epstein?
Money, Michael, money. I think I always thought that there's a triangle in our world, that power loves Hollywood, Hollywood loves money, money loves power. It's a triangle. So basically, Jeffrey Epstein offered free rides in his private jet. I'm sure that you and I would welcome private jets more than commercial flights, right, if we can. Ghislaine Maxwell was very, very generous to Chelsea Clinton, right? She told me that she invited her to a couple of trips and yachts and whatever. And it's what we call freebies. So I think it was really simply the money. And he was Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, there's still many questions about where his money came from. I mean, whether it was from Leslie Wexner or how did he make it? It's lots of question marks. But he did use his money to oil relationship with powerful people.
Right.
And frankly, even Bill Gates, I'm talking to you right now from my country club in California. Bill Gates is one of the members of my country club. And he's a billionaire. So this is a legit question. Okay, if you're Bill Clinton and you're a politician, your bread and butter is financial donations, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. I'm hosting, my husband and I are hosting with Tony Lyons a big birthday for Robert Kennedy Jr., the presidential candidate, later this month. So that's what it is, right? Fundraisers. But if you're Bill Gates, I'm asking you, Michael, and he's my neighbor, I have to be careful because I have to go out and play golf. But I mean, I'm just asking, why does Bill Gates, one of the richest guys in the world, right, Leslie? Why does he needed the money of Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah.
That's more like a question I don't have an answer. Do you?
No, I don't. I mean, it seems like there must be more to it. That's kind of my point, I suppose. Richard, I suppose you would come to the same conclusion, wouldn't you? You know, I mean, it's all very well saying that here's a guy who was very kind of adept at putting people together with each other, who was a fixer, who was, to all intents and purposes, a friend to the stars and politicians. But he was also a sex offender.
Oh, yes, I know. And the extraordinary thing is the numbers of people, and of course, Andrew, and fatefully on that Newsnight interview, which has just become notorious, not regretting it. I mean, that was what people could not believe. And what the other extraordinary thing is that there are 2 films for television here, both dealing with aspects of that are going to remind people all over again about it. So, I mean, it is quite extraordinary, but obviously this cast of stars that Kinsey was talking about, I mean, there's no doubt that that will grab attention in America. But anything to do with Prince Andrew, it's completely international because we have the world's most high-profile monarchy. The problem is, if things go wrong, then the publicity is absolutely vast, and King Charles will find it very, very embarrassing. And these attempts, anything in a church is permissible, whether it be a memorial service, a funeral, or if there's a new Dean of Windsor. But anything else is most certainly not, and not going to be.
It's definitely off the agenda, isn't it? Kinsey, let me come back to you. I mean, in terms of the way that the press are picking up the story there, who's kind of the #1 headline maker at the moment, as far as you're aware? I mean, we're hearing that Stephen Hawking has made some fairly interesting inroads into various scenarios. That's a surprise to a lot of people here who didn't really know that he was even interested in that kind of thing. But there we are. What about the big names who are being kind of outed, if you like, in Hollywood?
Well, we can't deny that the Stephen Hawking thing is something that I'd love to. That's a mental picture I'd love to get out of my head. Okay, but it's obviously Bill Clinton. It's this one line that he prefers young girls, and if you survived the '90s, I don't even believe that that's a headline. If you survived the '90s, you're just under the impression that he likes any pretty lady. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think that what we see here is honestly similar to what we saw with Weinstein. There were some legitimate relationships, or I should say, Alan Dershowitz, he says that he was completely unaware of anything that was going on. He stresses that. I believe that perhaps that is true with some of these names on the list, because obviously you are going to associate yourself with some legitimate characters that are completely oblivious. So you can say, hey, do you know Leonardo DiCaprio was just on my private jet? You want to come aboard? Yeah. And then you're saying, of course I want to come aboard. So there are going to be some innocent names on this list, because in any sort of scheme like this, there are legitimate relationships, there are innocent relationships, because perception is that you are who you associate with. So you're going to want to associate with a Leonardo DiCaprio or a Naomi Campbell.
Yes, absolutely. Daphne, one last word from you. Do you think Prince Andrew is going to take your advice, perhaps, and talk to the FBI, do something to try and clear his name?
I don't know if he will talk to the FBI. My husband and I had private lunches with his attorneys, and we weighed. I definitely tell you right now that he's very determined to fight the perception that he did something wrong, and the settlement was more about to please his late mother and not for other reasons. Whether it was the right decision or not, it's for him to think. I mean, Alan Dershowitz and I think it was a mistake, but we were not put under the pressure that he was. So it definitely he wants to fight. To fight in court? No. There are other ways to fight, and we shall see soon. But this release of names basically is speeding, I think, everybody's decision of all sides, including Virginia, who is texting me from Australia, and you know, it's something that let's say the editors of the Sun on Sunday told me 2 weeks ago when I was in London over lunch that it will be huge. Editor of the Daily Mail felt maybe it's old potatoes. It doesn't look like old potatoes. It looks like it's huge.
It really does. Absolutely right. Daphne Barak, thank you very much indeed. Kinsey Scoffield, great to see you. Thank you so much. Richard Fitzwilliams as well. Thank you so much indeed to everybody